My name is Felipe Martinez, and I am the Director of Development for Estrella Insurance. I handle the openings of all new agencies across all the U.S. territories. As a brand, Estrella Insurance has been around for over 40 years now, since 1980. We are an all franchise-owned system, currently operating in 5 states with over 170 locations, all of them operated by franchisees whom operate one or several units. We are obviously an insurance agency concept, specifically focused on what is called property and casualty insurance, which in a nutshell refers to the mandatory insurance products that people legally need to have in the United States. Products that range from automobile, home insurance, as well as commercial insurance products. All of these, again, legally mandated. The way that we operate in all of the markets is essentially in relationship with many insurance partners. We focus on partnering with national as well as local insurance carriers. On a national level, we work with well over 150 different insurance companies, and we focus on representing the most competitive ones in each market, whether it's a state where we do business with 8 or 12 or 20 or 30 different insurance carriers. The key is to represent the competitive companies there, and by having a portfolio of companies, our owners are able to essentially offer the right coverage and the lowest price in the communities that we are in. In fact, in most communities, because of the amount of companies that we represent, we are able to guarantee the lowest price to the customer. So by working with many carriers, that's the flexibility we have, but we are a bit unique in the sense that we own and operate our own auto insurance company as well, which is a unique product to us, and it's exclusive to our agencies, which helps us even be more competitive in the territory. That's a bit of an overview of where we fit in the insurance space. The franchise opportunity essentially is a retail location where the individual has the ability to represent the brand and from day one represent all of the insurance companies that they need to in order to be competitive. And the most important asset of the franchise really is learning the business with us and learning the formula that we have worked on for over 40 years, where we train our owners in everything about the insurance industry, the products, and the relationship with the insurance companies, as well as the actual operations of the business, everything from the management, the training, employees, local marketing, the customer service, and the retention of the customers. Owners will train in corporate training as well as hands-on training. In fact, they will train for up to a period of 2 months. And this is one of the reasons why we do not require prior insurance experience. We have many owners, even multiple unit owners, whom have started with zero insurance experience. So that is not a requirement for us because of the comprehensive training that we do. The retail location is very important. With over 170 locations, we assist our owners in analyzing that market, looking at options in that market, basing on the physical attributes, the visibility, the type of shopping centers, as well as the demographics of that community, everything from the population. Look at options and find and negotiate the best one, and really helping our franchisees set up their business and give them all the assistance that they need, from the branding to the training to the marketing, so they can establish themselves as the #1 choice of insurance within that community.
How does Estrella differentiate themselves from other insurance brokers?
Great question. So one of the main points is the fact that apart from, like, many brokers representing different carriers, well, we do work with many carriers in that realm. We are unique in the sense that we have our own insurance carrier that is unique to our agencies. So that's a big plus. I would tell you that another big factor is the way that we go about our marketing. We are very aggressive marketers in the territories that we are in. I would say that you'll be hard-pressed to find a competitor that matches us on the level of advertising that we do, that in these metro markets ranges from traditional media like billboards and buses to digital advertising across SEO and social media and different things. So we're very aggressive in that, which at the end of the day helps to build traffic for our agencies, where we direct customers via the phones, via online quotes to our agencies based on the customer zip code. So the marketing is a big uh, arm of strength for us, really, in the business and in the know-how to help deliver actual traffic to the agencies. Getting into actual financials, the commission split structure that we have established within the royalties and within the marketing, when you compare it to national competitors in insurance franchises, we rank among the lowest, which ultimately leaves our owners with more dollars in their pocket, and it's better for their bottom line, which at the end of the day, the bottom line is the most important thing in the business. So the structure that we have really lets them retain more of the actual revenue that the business brings in. Uh, those are a few things to touch on there. I think the actual investment is another one as well, with many franchisors having a significantly higher total investment. That is what really required in our model. So I think that the franchisees in realms of insurance, there's a lot of benefits to other franchisors, even just to other types of franchises. I would say that there's a lot of advantages also to our business. This business doesn't require any inventory or equipment. This is, at the end of the day, a legally required product. Not too many businesses can claim the same for the product or service that they sell. So within the insurance space, advantages, but I think also within the franchise world, the insurance opportunity really is uniquely set. And this is a business that is certainly a lot more resilient in an economic downturn than others, due to the nature of insurance being a commodity. So to highlight a few things for you there.
For sure. No, that's really helpful. You touch on a few different differentiating factors that I think it's good for any individual interested in Estrella or looking at other franchises for them to know. Now, can insurance policies be sold to customers outside of their territory? And then also, if you don't mind touching on how the territories are structured.
Okay, great question. So an insurance agency can sell, in most circumstances, products throughout the entire state. Once the individual is licensed, um, they can sell in the entire state. So you can have an agency in any part and sell anywhere. You can even sell to other states. But in most circumstances, in the state is most common, and even in the local community. In most agencies is where the volume of the business tends to be in between. You look at agencies that are 5, 10, 20 years. Most of the book of business is derived from that local community. So that's why it's incredibly important to find the right location within the metro area or the county that we're looking at, depending on the state. As far as territories are concerned, it always derived on population. Depending on the population of a specific county, we are able to determine how many agencies uh, can be established there. You have territories that, based on population, can hold 5 locations, or some that can hold 50. That doesn't necessarily mean that a space with less population might not be as successful. It just simply means you can't have as many units. We're very diligent in not opening more locations that that territory can, or that market can handle, right? Because at that point we risk failures. Uh, so it can vary. Legally, each agency has 1 mile radius around it. But again, this is going to vary in the market and the population. You have very large territories that, due to such a large population, such a traffic count, we've been able to establish locations that are 1.5 miles, 2 miles in between. But you have such volume that all agencies are able to be successful, because at the end of the day, everybody needs insurance. Or you have territories where, due to the density maybe not being quite as large, we might have agencies separated 3 or maybe even 4 miles apart, right? Because in those kind of markets, it might not quite make as much sense to put them as close together. So there is a bit of discretion there, but ultimately it's the population of each market that's going to determine the amount of locations it can sustain in the long term.
Okay, that makes sense and very helpful information on territories. Now, regarding one of the points you mentioned, I guess the process for someone wanting to become a franchisee, what are the steps in the process? Just so we can go over those.
Sure. Well, there is typically the process is once an individual is licensed or they're not licensed, we can assist them in getting licensed. In fact, most states have very little requirements where an individual in anywhere from 2 to even 3 weeks can be licensed. So it's certainly not a big obstacle. I do like to stress that because sometimes folks might think that it is when it might not be. But once an individual has the license, we are able to essentially start looking for the retail location, begin looking at spaces, negotiating. Once we identify the space, the individual will begin the training with us, which again will vary, but it's usually up to 2 months. During that 2 month span, the location is being remodeled and prepared for the grand opening. And essentially at that point, we're able to open the business. In most circumstances, we deal from agreement signed, an individual having the license, to grand opening, anywhere from 3 to 6 months on the long end. Now, if we have a visa process involved, this is going to expand the time frame a bit longer, depending on their legal team. The consulates, appointment times, attorneys can have things prepared in 2 to 4 months. And then at that point, it's pending on approval from the consulate before we can begin the process of finding the right site and all the other steps.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that. I was going to ask about that, as Estrella has had experience with E2s already. But in terms of the location, what support is given for finding the location and then building out the location, as well as the whole training and hiring process? Because assuming probably the typical individual looking at Estrella doesn't have any background with insurance.
Sure. So as far as finding the right location, this is again incredibly important. We partner with commercial real estate brokers in all of the markets that we either are in or we are going to open new units that assist us in doing market research, where we're able to essentially look that the demographics of that community or that city are adequate. And once we determine that they are adequate, we begin finding the right specific location by comparing different ones and comparing the attributes of each one on a case-by-case basis, everything from the physical attributes, the traffic, shopping center, visibility, parking, the access, and the actual demographics of that community. We're doing a market study for each of the individual locations where we look at whether we look at 3 or 4 or 5 units, and together with the franchisee and all of the information, make an educated decision on which one is going to be the most favorable location. And at that point, help the franchisee negotiate the best terms for it, whether it's the rent, exclusivity in the plaza, increases, and many other financial terms that we assist them with in a letter of intent, essentially, to make sure that they have favorable financial terms during the term of their lease. And then when they begin the training with us, the training is 2 weeks of corporate training that we are dedicated to teaching them about the products, the structure of the products, as well as the relationship with the insurance carriers. And then after they learn the theory with us during the classroom training, they do the hands-on training at one of our established locations, a location that has been open for a good deal of time, a few years, that has a lot of movement. And that owner essentially is going to learn the day-to-day for up to 6 weeks in that location, see how the owner and the employees manage all of the business, the inbound, the outbound, new policies, renewals. They're going to be exposed to everything. So by the time they're done, and with those 6 weeks, that owner is going to know the software, the quoting process, the products, and how to sell them, how to bind them, and all the other aspects of the day-to-day business, from the accounting, the reporting, everything. The idea is for the owner to be fully prepared. And should an owner feel that they actually need a little bit more training, we don't have a problem accommodating for that either. But they will be fully and truly ready before they open. We're not going to let somebody open unless we feel that they're fully ready.
Makes a lot of sense, and thank you for going over that whole process. Now, let's just say the individual, the franchisee, opens up. What are their ongoing responsibilities that the franchisee typically focuses on? Can they just be an investor, or do they need to be more actively involved in this business? I think a lot of people ask about that. And then also, how do they go about their hiring and training of employees?
Sure. So there's a few models to how our agencies can be operated, but by far the most common is an owner-operator model. When an owner begins the operation themselves, either with completely on their own or with employees, they can do that as well. And as the business continues to grow, they continue to hire employees. I would tell you, Jack, that when an agency is more mature, we usually see an average of 4 to 6 employees, right? So in the beginning, there is, again, an owner-operator model there. But again, as the business becomes established, at that point, you can maybe have a manager and employees that maybe will handle more of the weight of the day-to-day, right? So at that point, the owner can have a little bit of a different role, maybe as an overseer of all the operations of his business, of either that one or perhaps maybe even multiple locations, where we have owners that operate 4, 5, even over 10 locations. And in those circumstances, that owner is not so much about the day-to-day and the selling of the policies, but more about overseeing their network of agencies. So there is, I'd say that the way to start is probably owner-operator, even though we have had some individuals that even they become licensed and they're not necessarily doing the owner in the operations themselves. They might start with a manager from day one, and they can start with a more hands-off role. That is a possibility as well. But again, ultimately, how much effort and dedication that owner puts to their business is going to be a big factor in how successful that franchise location is, right? And how much input that owner and operator has, again, is going to weigh in on the success. In most cases, owner operator is the most common.
For sure. And I think it's a good point that you bring up, that we've seen with other franchise systems as well, is that especially in the beginning, the more involved the investor is, the more involved the owner is, typically the better the business does, obviously, because they have a better feel for it, better training for the employees, better hiring, customer service, everything. So that makes a lot of sense.
Especially, I would say, in our business, the first 2 years, while the is really starting to lift up, you have a couple employees at this point, possibly an office manager, and then again, that some responsibility could come off the owner in the day-to-day at that point.
Got it, for sure. Now, a little bit about the economics of the business, because people, they might think of a food concept and it's very clear, they sell a hamburger and they can understand the rest of the profit and loss statement. But for insurance, how does someone make money in this business?
Great question.
How do they generate fees?
And that is probably one of the biggest and the most attractive points of the insurance business when it's operated correctly. This is a business based on renewals, specifically on insurance policies. You're paid by insurance carriers on new business, and then once that policy is renews, for example, an automobile policy that could be a 6-month policy, that company pays again a commission to the agent. So the agents per policy not only derive an income from the initial sale, but by providing the right service, And with all the training that we do and the right pricing that we offer through our insurance partners, we increase the chances of them really renewing those policies, right, through the right customer service. So you have a model where you have an income from that individual on perhaps the automobile, and then go to insure that individual's home, perhaps their business, and then all of the friends, the family, right? All the things that derive more leads, more referrals, essentially, in conjunction with business that is generated from our marketing, from local marketing that an owner can create, and from the strength of that retail location, and that it's in a favorable area for the business. So all of this kind of combines to help bring in business. And again, you're receiving these commissions on a constant basis, right? So you have an agency that starts, and what happens month 6, month 7, cash flow starts to increase a little bit because you start to get renewals. And then as that cycle continues, every month you start to get more renewals in addition to new policy that you're writing. And this creates a model that if done successfully, and again, because we deal with customers in person, on the phone, or online, we're not limited to the size of our space. You create a business model that we have agencies that have been growing on an annual basis for over 30 years now. So the actual income structure is very attractive in the insurance business because of structure with the renewals.
Yeah, so it has basically a built-in recurring revenue structure mechanism that what we've seen for businesses, it's just a more favorable business model once you can already have the customer and they can just keep generating income from them.
Correct. And then the ability to sell multiple lines, have multiple streams of revenue from that single customer is very important. And it's actually been proven that the more policies of insurance you have with a customer, the less likely that customer should ever cancel and leave.
Yeah, true. It's a little stickier than a Netflix subscription that you cancel it, one month to the next. If insurance, you don't necessarily want to be doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. Once you're tied in with a lot of products, you might have more discounts, and it's going to be more difficult for a customer to truly want to leave that agency.
For sure. Now, I think we've covered, the majority of questions that I think would come up with an individual interested in becoming an Estrella franchisee. I would say my last question has to do with, let's just say that an investor wants to move forward with the process with Estrella. They watch this video, they understand the concept a little better. What would the steps be in the process for them to explore and eventually gain approval from Estrella? If you don't mind going over that.
No, not at all. I would say that any potential investors that have an interest in learning more or pursuing our franchise opportunity, the next step would be a call, an intro call. I think that the most important thing is that person learns all of the details of our business to make sure that it is the concept that is right and favorable for them. And we, in turn, want to get to meet them and hear about their past experience and where they want to be in the future, to make sure that we really are going to be a good fit for each other and for future growth. What we want really is a win-win. So the next step is really an intro call to learn a little bit more about each other. And at that point, if the talks continue, disclose them with a disclosure document where they have the ability to study all of the terms that govern the franchise opportunity. And it goes from there.
Perfect. Well, with that, Felipe, I think we're all set. Thank you so much for your time today. Very informative. I think for anyone interested in exploring Estrella, we touched on a lot of the main points to help people know what the franchise is all about. So thank you so much.
No problem.